Morning.
Good morning. We are currently in Bishkek, and as promised in the last video of the Atbashi circuit, we were gonna do a video covering some of the logistics of bike travel in Kyrgyzstan. So this is bike travel in Kyrgyzstan explained, and this is not going to be a quick and snappy explainer. This is going to be quite a long sit, so get ready for it because we have quite a list of things to go through. But first, to give some explanation on where we actually are. We're in the apartment of a friend. We've been staying here for about 2 weeks. The bikes have been cleaned up, they're ready to get boxed because we are flying out soon. And we're staying at the place of Aishola, which you may know. She's kind of a famous Kyrgyz cyclist by now. She did a really cool tour in Georgia together with Ed Brett on a tandem bike. And she's now in Pakistan, but coming back soon. So hopefully we get to see her before our departure. You should check out the videos that she's participated in. They're really worth watching. But back to Kyrgyzstan.
Back to Kyrgyzstan. What are you drinking?
Instant coffee. It's
Yeah.
perhaps the biggest subject we could talk about, but we'll leave that for another time. Basically, this video I want to divide it into subjects. So the subjects for this video are airport arrival or border arrival. So you might arrive with your bike at the border of this country. Bishkek, the city, the capital city of the country. The food, the stays, the transport within the city. Transporting the bike in a marshrutka or taxi, which is a whole different subject. And you might need that to get to a route, which we'll talk through as well. The routes such as Tian Shan, our Expedition Alai, and Atbashi circuit routes, as well as the Silk Road mountain race of different years and different itineraries. And I want to have a brief chat on a little book that we know from Kyrgyzstan. It's a fantastic book made by a French couple, and get it actually soon so you can see it. And on cycling itself, we want to talk about the types of roads that we're gonna find here, where to find food, what to expect of the food, where to find water, hospitality of the people and how unfortunately it's changing, accommodations such as hotels, guest houses, yurts, the landscapes, of course, that's what everyone comes to Kyrgyzstan for, and camping, which is arguably one of the best things to do in this country. And for the bike, just to go through what bike and setup is best in our opinion. And that should be it. So, let's start with airport arrival or border arrival. What do you think, Bea?
Kyrgyzstan is super easy to get to. Most countries don't require a visa to get in. You get 60 days visa free, so that makes things very smooth, and therefore the access to Kyrgyzstan just fast. So Bishkek airport is not a big airport, but it's manageable, I would say.
Yeah.
No?
Upon your arrival in Bishkek airport, you're going to be overwhelmed when you get outside.
Oh yeah.
Not only because of the time difference and the culture shock, but the fact that there is about 1 million people wanting to drive you in their taxi to the center.
Yeah. So the price changes every year. It also changes whether you're a tourist or a local, but a fair price to get to the city varies between
$10 and $20, something like that.
Oh no, less. I would say between 800 and 1200 some, which is between 10 and maximum $15. Yeah. If you're paying more, then they rip you off.
Yeah. And this should be the same also, not depending on if you're carrying a bike or not. We came here with 2 bike boxes, and they usually fit in the slightly bigger vans. You might have to rent 2 taxis, which of course will bump the price up if your boxes don't fit in the same car. Generally shouldn't be an issue. They transport anything and everything in cars in Kyrgyzstan. 10 people at the same time, or different boxes with different goods. It can all fit in these cars.
They'll manage.
So yeah, they'll manage. They'll Tetris your box inside. As for the border arrival, if you were to arrive by bike to the border in Kyrgyzstan, that is going to be very easygoing. Whereas Uzbekistan is usually a bit difficult to get in or out of, so we've been told. Kyrgyzstan is super easygoing, as well as Kazakhstan. So if you're coming from either of those countries and you enter Kyrgyzstan, it's going to be just fine with your 60-day visa-free visit, and generally very friendly border guards, sort of a more open-minded attitude towards travelers. Yeah, it's going to be fine to enter by bike from pretty much any direction into Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah, Tajikistan.
Tajikistan is a bit of a subject. That's right. That's a good point.
2022, the border between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan by land is closed because of border conflicts.
Yeah.
So right now the only way to get to Tajikistan from Kyrgyzstan is through Uzbekistan.
To Uzbekistan,
Unfortunately,
or Kazakhstan. Yeah. The problem there is that the Pamir highway, which we cycled in 2018 and is part of the reason we fell in love with Kyrgyzstan, is closed. Like, it's basically just a dead end now in Tajikistan, which has most of the Pamir highway route. If you were to cycle it from Dushanbe expecting to get into Kyrgyzstan, you would be very disappointed up there in the Pamir mountains after cycling over Akbaital, one of the highest passes in the world. You'd be blocked because the border is closed. So if you are planning to ride into Kyrgyzstan from the Pamir highway, do check. Maybe this video is now 2 years old and they've resolved the issues. Just check the border and make sure you can actually get through. Then, Bishkek, this wonderful city. We've been having a great time here.
Bishkek is awesome.
Yeah, it's actually...
Yeah. It's becoming very occidental in a sense that it just looks like you're in any big capital anywhere in Europe or maybe the US. There's so many cafeterias, there's so many things you can do, and it's very enjoyable. It's very peaceful. Other than the traffic, I would say that, I mean, they drive a bit like maniacs here.
Yeah, they definitely do. There's a lot of greenery in this city, which we really like. They have an old waterway system, which basically just pushes water through trenches along the entire city. And the city lies in a kind of a valley, so from either side of the city, you're always going to go down to the center. So the water naturally flows. There's a lot of trees, bushes, like parks and everything, which keeps this city very livable in the summer. The winter doesn't really matter for this video, since you probably won't be cycling here in the winter, but it can be very harsh and polluted. This city is at times one of the most polluted cities in the world, but in summer you don't really notice that. You have views directly on the mountains from most places. They're really close. And this city is a very nice base for bike tours in this country if you have the luxury to stay longer. What we've done is we cycled in the Alai Valley in the southwest of the country. Then we came back to Bishkek, stayed for about a week, and then we went out again and then came back and now have stayed for 2 weeks. And this has not only allowed us to process the footage of the tours that we've done, but also to rest and relax and actually enjoy ourselves. There's a ton of bakeries, a ton of restaurants. You can find all kinds of worldly foods all over in this city alone, and you can probably spend like 3 years discovering new restaurants, eating out almost every day.
Yeah, it's also especially enjoyable because particularly the prices of food here are very low compared with other things.
Yes.
So eating outside, I don't know, if we've been having a very generous meal and it might turn out to be $5 per person.
Yeah.
So we're enjoying before we go back to Europe.
Also the fruits and vegetables here are
So
amazing.
good. Yeah.
There's a couple of supermarkets like the Frunze and the Globus.
Yeah.
And they have massive aisles full of fruits and veg, and they cost nothing. You can get 2-3 kilos of tomatoes for maybe €1, maybe €1.50, and they're so tasty, so delicious, so juicy.
Yeah.
Corn, herbs, paprikas, mangoes, peaches. The peaches here are insane.
Yeah.
There's just a lot to go around for when it comes to food, and you should absolutely take some time in Bishkek to discover the food scene here.
Including the Oshbazar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the Oshbazar, that is an experience in and of itself. It's more rough on the edges than the supermarkets here.
But it's beautiful to see how they sell all the goods in just bags.
Massive bags, spices, and all kinds of beans and traditional Kyrgyz dishes, which we'll get to later.
One more thing, I just thought about it before. Payments. I think it's important to mention that when you're in Bishkek, you'll be able to pay with credit card without problem. Generally, everywhere that is a big shop.
Yeah.
And otherwise you'll be able to pay with the currency from here, and sometimes also in dollars. Just take note that the dollars always have to be in a good looking state. If they're ripped or if they have marks, they won't accept them generally.
Yeah. All right, then we have stays and transport in Bishkek. There's plenty of hotels, guest houses,
and
hostels.
Yeah.
We would recommend that you take a look at booking.com. They generally show the prices pretty accurately, but that you don't book with them. You actually just go to the property and you reserve your stay there. You can call them. In some cases you can email. There's hostels like the Apple Hostel, which is a very nice place to just come stay, unload your bike, have a bit of freedom in the garden, and meet other travelers.
Yeah, Tunduk seems to be popular too.
Tunduk is a very popular hostel, yes. And hotel-wise, we bring photo tours, photo groups to this country, and we stay in, they're pretty European level, maybe American level hotels. They're going to be more expensive than the hostels, but it's a nice stay if you need a bit of comfort, a bit of privacy, some luxury, and good breakfast buffets. There's the Bridges Hotel. That is our very favorite. There's of course, the Hiltons of the world there here too.
But the Bridges is nice because it's locally run.
Right.
It's managed by a woman.
Right.
And it's just a small hotel where you actually see Kyrgyz people staying at, so it's not just tourists.
Yeah.
And they're so nice with us always.
They're really friendly. The lady at breakfast, which has been there for years, so I'm pretty sure she'll be there when you are there, is serving omelets to literally everyone, and if you don't accept the omelet, she might just get angry at you. Yeah, this hotel has also allowed us to keep our bike boxes in their basement for a month and a half, so they're just exceptionally friendly and absolutely worth the money if you're just staying a few nights, and like I said, you want to get a bit of comfort.
Yeah, and price range, the hostels, you can get them as low as $4 or $5 a night for a dorm. Otherwise, private rooms run for about $20-25 a night. And if you're looking into a hotel like the Bridges Hotel, then it's $65 a night, and all these prices that I'm sharing with you is for the room. So in this case, it would be 2 people.
Yeah, exactly. Which is pretty affordable.
Yeah.
Transport-wise, to get out of this great old city to the rest of the country, you're going to be looking at marshutkas, which are like small white vans that carry multiple people, usually up to about 16 or 12, something like that, or taxis. And taxis are going to be more expensive because they're considered like a private ride, but they're also going to be a little bit more easygoing when you have a box or bicycle to carry in them. They're usually, because they're a private vehicle, allow for a bike to be put in the car, whereas a marshutka has limited luggage space and generally doesn't accept big boxes. So you would have to take your bike out of a box, and you would have to take the wheels off, maybe take the handlebar off, maybe the pedals even, and try to Tetris it into the luggage space of the marshutka.
Yeah.
We've done this on multiple occasions. We've also taken a taxi, which was a shared taxi with multiple people, from Osh to Bishkek. And from Bishkek to Narin, we managed to take a marshutka, and also on the way back, we managed to take a marshutka. So here's some photos of that. You can see that the bikes are just, squashed into different places. One marshutka allowed us to put them inside, and we occupied 3 extra seats, which we paid for. And another marshutka accepted to put them in the luggage space, which was a bit of a fitting game, to say the least.
Yeah, the reason we choose to use marshutkas is also because it's way cheaper than a private transfer. So for example, between Narin and Bishkek, for a private taxi you pay 6,500 som, which is about $70, I guess.
Yeah.
Whilst if you take a seat in one of these shared marshutkas, it's just 400 som, so it's $5. It's a big difference.
Yes.
So yeah, for us it just made sense to try and convince these drivers to have our bicycles in their bus. I mean, they're going there anyway, so it's also nice to just share the vehicle with other people, and not just because we have the money keep on hiring private taxis everywhere.
Exactly.
And the place where you find them, it's in the bus stations. In Bishkek, I believe there's 2 bus stations.
Yeah.
So you just have to make your way there. and eventually, because if you're visually a tourist, like it's very clear that you're a tourist, someone will come to you, will ask you where you're going, and then they'll take you to the right marshutka.
Yeah.
And otherwise you just walk around, and all the marshutkas have a sign on the front so you can see where they're going, and then you just have to wait until the vans are full, and that's when they leave. So you never know when they're actually gonna leave.
Yeah, which in fact, another bonus subject, Kyrgyz time frame is very different. 10 minutes might become an hour, 1 hour might become 4.
Yeah.
So just take your time, relax, sit back.
And the marshutkas might not go directly to your destination. They might stop on the way to pick someone else, to collect some tomatoes, to deliver something. So you just never know.
You never know.
Be prepared.
Alright, so you've taken the transport and you're now looking at starting a route. One of the more known bike routes in this country is the Tian Shan Traverse from bikepacking.com. It's an excellent route to cycle and see most of this country, and so are most of the Silk Road mountain race routes. This race has routes that change every single year, so the 2022 one has just concluded, and it was a route that dipped into Alai briefly, into the Alai region of the southwest that we've been exploring ourselves, then went up to Arslanbob, which is the biggest forest in this country. It's a walnut forest. Then went over on the plateaus of the mountains to Kazaman, to Narin, to the Arabelle Plateau, down to Isikul, which is the biggest lake in this country, and then up again through the mountains to Songkul, another famous lake, and up to Bishkek. That route would be recommendable, to say the least, to see this country just in detail and see basically every landscape it has to offer. Our own routes zoom in on specific regions. This is why we made 2 loops, to offer the possibility to not do an A to B trajectory, but instead bring your bike somewhere, ride a loop, perhaps leave some of your bags or luggage in a hotel or a guest house, and then come back to them after you complete the loop. So the first loop is Expedition Alai, and if you've seen the videos, which we recommend you to watch, they're very adventurous, you've seen that this route will take you through the Alai mountains and the Alai Valley in the southwest of the country, south of Osh. And it's a spectacular place to be. It's very little tourists, cyclists are not really well known there, so the people are generally very surprised and friendly. And the passes give you a lot of beautiful landscapes to look at, a lot of isolation, just wonderful, wonderful places to ride through. And the Alai Valley, spectacular on its own because you get to see the Pamir mountain range and the border with Tajikistan. The other loop that we cycled was the Atbashi circuit, which we made very rideable on purpose because there's already a few routes that go through the same itinerary, so we're mountain race and Tian Shan traverse. But we wanted to make an approachable loop that most people could cycle on most bikes, whether you're on bikepacking setup or a more heavy touring setup. You can ride this one. The river crossing is the tricky part, and the little visit and dip into the Kalsu Valley might be tough on you because it's quite a climb and a descent. But other than that, it's a very approachable loop that you should absolutely check out if you only have, say, a week and a half or 2 weeks in this country. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the routes. There's probably going to be a lot more to come. This country is only just starting out to be a bikepacking mecca. So expect that on a different kind of map you might be seeing a lot of bike routes soon. Let's get the Kyrgyzstan book. Nice. So before we go on to the cycling specific subjects like roads and landscape, where to sleep, etc., this book, made by our friends Olivia and Victor from France, will tell you everything that you need to know about Kyrgyzstan. It's a wonderful book. We're not going to get into it at this moment. You should try and check it out online. I think you can buy an online PDF as well, if in case you're cycling. Mm-hmm. You should check it out. It's a wonderful book to read through before you come to Kyrgyzstan. Yeah,
they have a lot of just culture information, tips on the country, and suggestions on routes to take. And since they travel by 4x4, you know, if they can make it through the routes, then you can make it through the route also on a bicycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, on to cycling specific subjects, which are, beginning with the types of roads that you can expect in this country. We're gonna recommend you to get off the paved roads pretty quickly.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, there's a couple of arteries to this country, like the M41 and the road to China through Narin, that are paved, but they're full of traffic, and you're not gonna enjoy the ride as much as you would on a proper gravel path, you know, dirt track, single track, or things like a horse track up in the mountains. You're gonna be pushing yourself quite a bit. Oftentimes you might have to get off your bike. There's also a risk of washboard on these unpaved roads, but they are just so much better to see the country up close and see the places that people usually don't travel to, which is what a bike can do.
Yeah.
So those types of roads is absolutely what we recommend. It's what we build our routes upon, and again, you might have river crossings, broken bridges, you know, rundown infrastructure.
Yeah.
But you'll get to the places that little people are seeing and that are just stunning.
Yeah, it changes also year after year because of the landslides. So maybe this year there's a route that is okay, whilst next year you have to do a little hike-a-bike because there's been a landslide. You can also go as rural as you want, as in you can push your bike up mountains and try to connect different ways and just follow little paths that maybe the shepherds were creating. But otherwise it is still possible to just stay on gravel, and there's no need to go extremely remote for more than a couple days. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and if you're into route planning like we are, then you can watch the satellite imagery, for example through the Komoot planning map. They recently introduced a feature that allows you to see little green dots on the map, and those green dots are where people have taken pictures. So you click them, you see a picture of the type of road or track you're gonna find. It's really helpful when you're planning a route to keep it safe, and you can watch the satellite imagery at the same time to see if there's some switchback somewhere, or perhaps a little trail through a valley that hasn't been mapped yet by someone. So where to find food and what to expect food-wise. The first thing that you should probably expect is that you're going to get sick, because a lot of people come to this country and they pretty much immediately have some kind of bellyache or, you know, vomiting going
Diarrhea, mostly diarrhea, I would say, more than vomiting.
Yeah, for me it's usually vomiting, but
for me, it's the other one. And we don't know what it is. It's the food, it's the water, it's the change in, I don't know,
atmosphere, temperature, whatever it is. Stomach bugs are common, and you're probably gonna get one.
Yeah.
If you eat meat, you might get one quicker. The meat in this country is not the cleanest.
There's no refrigeration in many places, so they just handle it in vans that probably are at 40 degrees during the day whilst they're driving, things like that. So we would suggest that you stay away from the meat for sure whilst you're here. Your chances of not getting sick will be definitely better.
Yes. And besides the cities, as we've told you about Bishkek, you can find any type of food here. Outside of the cities, it gets down to about 10 ingredients. You can count them on two hands. The most common ingredients you'll find in shops, as for fresh vegetables, are cucumber, tomato, onion, carrot, paprika, maybe some coal.
Potato.
Yeah, that's about it. Cabbage, not coal.
Yeah.
So it's fairly basic, and you can still make a lot of dishes, lots of different types of dishes with these ingredients, of course. But just keep in mind that you're not going to be able to find, you know, all the things you might be used to back home.
Yeah.
The other things you can find are pasta, rice, buckwheat. Buckwheat is a great ingredient, as you saw. We've been using it a ton in our own right.
Lentils.
Lentils you can find, split peas, those kind of things are available as basic
noodles.
Layers for your food.
Noodles.
Instant noodles are a thing.
Yeah.
But in rural shops, you're really not going to find much more than that. They're very much into candy, so you'll find just walls of candies in different shops. We haven't tried almost any of them. They're a bit funky in most cases. There are also Western snacks like Mars and Milky Way, Bounty, Snickers, those kind of things. So if you're into those candy bars, you'll be able to find those.
And if you're in the summer months, then you'll have a lot of fruit, which is very nice. Even in the remote areas, you can usually find sometimes bananas, apples, watermelons, peaches.
Yeah.
Which reminds me also that the summer is probably the best time to come and cycle in Kyrgyzstan, July and August, because of the extreme temperatures in this country. You will get very hot days if you come in July and August when you're below 2,000 meters, which is not that often, but you'll be having fresh nights when you're in the mountains about 3,000 meters. Whilst if you're already in June or in September, chances are that your evenings can get as low as -10 degrees when you're up in the mountains. So it's something you have to evaluate. We would say that July, August is the best time to cycle, but the good window would be between June and September.
Yes.
After September, you won't be able to cycle above 3,000 meters without a bunch of snow already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And snow is a good segue into water. Finding water in this country is extremely easy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of rivers and streams to tap from. Just know that you'll have to filter it in most cases, as there's a lot of livestock. People keep sheep and horses and cows in the mountains, and they might just poop in your river. So you should be careful and bring a filter. We have a Sawyer mini filter. We just screw it on top of the Ortlieb water bag, and then the water bag holds the dirty water and we push out the clean one. That's been working for us very well. Sometimes when we're above a certain amount of meters, we see a stream coming directly from a glacier. We are more confident, and if the stream is wider, not just a narrow, slither, then it's probably less likely you get sick because things are a bit more dispersed. And in our experience, this has been the way. But if you want to be absolutely 100% sure, you can filter, double filter, do anything you want and drink the water as it is from the rivers. Other than that, in the cities, there's tap water sometimes. Depends on the place that you are. In the south, in Sarimogol, for example, it's not really that trustworthy. It's probably better to cook the water or filter it. In a city like Bishkek, we've been drinking the water from the pipes and we've been fine. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can decide that yourself, how safe you want to be. So we're going to get on to a subject now which is maybe a little bit unfortunate. We have had quite a different experience with this year than we had in 2018 when we cycled here for the first time. And we've heard similar things from other riders that maybe cycled here 5-10 years ago and have come back this year. And that's the hospitality of the people and how it's changing.
Yeah, well, tourism is growing here and people are realizing this, locals are realizing this, so it feels like we're not longer treated as guests in many places, and instead we're just treated as tourists, which means that they're gonna try and get money from you for whatever act of help that you might need. We've heard I was thinking of this extreme case of the French guys that had a flat tire on their 4x4 and they needed a special tool to take off their tire. So a car came to help out and they had to pay to be able to use this guy's tire.
Yeah, they had to haggle to use the tool, which doesn't strike me as a hospitable thing, and it probably wouldn't happen in another country that is famous for their hospitality.
Yeah.
It seems that there's two sides to this. Of course, tourism is an important thing for this country. It's also kind of the lifeblood of a lot of people that go to the summer pastures up in the mountains, run little yurt camps and stuff like that. And it's perfectly explainable that you're going to have to pay for those services. What we are referring to is more the things that you usually hear about Kyrgyzstan, which is that you'll be invited at someone's house and you'll be given treats and tea and those kind of things. And while that still happens, it seems to be going to the direction where people have realized that this is an experience they offer and they're taking it to different lengths to try and figure out how to make some money with it on the side. So you might not receive genuine acts of help anymore. Instead, you might be charged to them. And the same thing with the marshutkas and the taxis, the transport. People sort of start to realize that they can make a lot of money off of this. And you're paying prices that are sometimes exceeding Western ones or prices of other hospitable countries, such as Iran, Turkey, and Armenia. So just so you know, when you come here, you can definitely still get a very candid experience with locals, and they might still invite you and not charge you or even refuse some money that you want to give them. but in some cases you might start to get charged for things you didn't ask for, and you have to be on the lookout for those moments just to be sure your traveling experience doesn't get ruined by someone who just wants to make a quick buck off of your visit. So yeah, I think we're just starting to realize this ourselves. We just wanted to put a little asterisk on the hospitality subject, because it seems that everyone who speaks up about Kyrgyzstan is always glorifying the hospitality, and that is not exactly what it used to be.
Yeah.
At least in our experience.
We communicate with the locals with Google Translate generally, because most of them speak Russian.
Yeah.
So that's the language we use to try and communicate. There's almost no one that speaks English, so just so that you come prepared.
Exactly. And if you learn a bit of Russian, this might help you avert those kind of situations that are a bit awkward. Yeah, that closes that up. Uncomfortable subject. Anyway, let's go on to the accommodation. Accommodation in this country, except for the cities, which we've already discussed, is usually coming down to little hotels, yurt camps, guest houses that are run by families, private persons, and the most common is probably the guest house in the little villages that you're going to be riding through. Guest houses can range from sort of full-blown official accommodation run by CBT, Community-Based Tourism, which is an organization from this country that is government regulated, to something like a family just opening up their house, having a couple of extra bedrooms available to host travelers.
Mm-hmm.
Prices are going to range probably between something like 800 som and 2000 som maybe at the highest, which is also the price range for most yurt camps, and most of them are going to come with breakfast and dinner included. And the guest houses may have a bathroom with a trickle of some shower water or a toilet. In yurt camps you'll usually have a drop toilet. Some are installing cold showers now that tourism is really coming back from COVID, to offer some extra services, but usually you'll just sleep on a mattress or a makeshift bed in a yurt, which is quite a nice experience since you're so rural and out in nature. In the guest houses you're going to sleep usually indoors in a nice bedroom. These might be renovated or not depending on the guest house, and again the price range will probably decide the quality of the food, of the service. Maybe you'll see other cyclists in the same place. They're nice to integrate into your journey and get a bit of comfort and a bit of luxury as you come from the mountains or something like a storm. And speaking about the mountains, let's talk about the landscapes.
That's what you come to Kyrgyzstan for. It's mostly for the landscape, because this is one of the few places left in the world. I mean, I haven't been that so many places, but I imagine you cannot find such untouched nature everywhere. And by untouched, we really mean untouched. Like, there's no electricity poles, there's just not roads in many places. You only find some random shepherds and yurts on the way. So that is what you come to Kyrgyzstan for this experience of actually being in the middle of nowhere. And we really love the nature here. It changes a lot from dry landscapes with like more reddish and yellow sandstone mountains, and it changes to green pastures, to mountain peaks,
pine forest,
mountain peaks of like 7,000 meters that have snow for the whole year round.
It's quite a spectacular country. Landscape-wise, I think it's up there on the top of our list. I don't think there's any other country we've been to or that we can envision from seeing other people's rides that offers a more diverse natural environment.
In such a small space.
In such a small space. It's really compressed. It's about 90% mountains, all of Kyrgyzstan. So you can expect to just be surrounded by peaks almost all the time. And coming back to the roads, the services, it's why we recommend also to be on gravel and single track and such things, because you're just going to see that untouched landscape a bunch more. I think the Silk Road Mountain Race is a good example of a route that takes you through most of the untouched places and really the barren places with little human activity, because they're built around sort of the most challenging environments where you're really alone and you're reliant upon only yourself. And if you prepare well, food-wise and water-wise, it's just going to be the experience of a lifetime. See those peaks, see the glaciers, you know, the marmots and the wildlife out there. Yeah, this country is fantastic when it comes to the landscape.
Which is why camping here is also like a 5-star,
Nice.
10-star experience.
Nice segue, nice. I love it.
Yeah, here camping is completely fine. The Kyrgyz come from a nomadic culture, so actually for them, nomads are people that are very respected and very admired. And when you travel here by bicycle, that's what happens. So setting up your tent almost anywhere is generally a great experience. There's a lot of streams, there's a lot of flat patches or grass in general.
A lot of epic views for when you're sleeping under the stars. The starry skies are insane because of the lack of light pollution.
Yeah.
And
Our favorite thing.
Yeah, there's a detail that you might not know about, and that is the dry air in this country and how it makes your tent not be wet in the mornings.
Yeah.
It is glorious
It's
to be able...
no condensation.
Yeah, to pack the tent. On occasion you'll get a bit of condensation. You've seen us holding up the tent fabric in the morning sometimes in the videos, but that is a rare occasion. Most of the times your tent is just going to be completely dry in the morning and you're able to pack it up straight away. Whereas in other places that we've been, mostly in Europe, it's just a wet party. You have condensation, or maybe the outside shell of your tent is wet because you camped in a river valley or whatever. If you camp in a river valley here, nothing happens. It's just as dry as can be.
Yeah.
And that is a very comfortable detail of camping in this country.
Yeah. We've also felt pretty safe.
Yeah, we
so
felt
in
really
general.
safe.
We do still hide, like we always try to hide and not be seen, but
Right.
yeah, we sleep at peace in this country in general.
Yeah. We've had one occasion, for example, where I guess a shepherd on a horse came by that was on Expedition Alai after the first pass was almost over. He just came by in the morning. He was riding close to our tent, and the only thing he said was, "Hey, you know, how you doing?"
This little kid, when we were camping, and it will happen to you too. Maybe you're camping and then you're seen by a kid or by a local, and they'll just come and squat next to you and just be next to you on the tent for 1 hour, 2 hours, just looking at what you're doing. They have nothing to do in general, so they're just very curious, and they'll just, they don't understand, how do you call this, like space.
Oh, distance, the concept of privacy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is forgivable, and we've had good times with that too. It's nice to have someone actually be interested in what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's just that, you know, the coming over and maybe the language barrier and squatting there for 2 hours could be a bit awkward, but usually things are fine and people are really friendly. So even if you get spotted or found by someone in your tent, the situation shouldn't be any worse than them giving you some fruit and a handshake and a good night wish. Yeah.
We love camping here.
We love it. We just love it. I think that brings us to the last subject, which is a debatable thing. It's the bike and the setup that you should bring. Of course, any bike is fine and any setup is fine as long as you can store enough food and water when you're going to the rural stretches. We personally prefer to carry our stuff in panniers, small panniers in the rear. That's why we still carry a rack, because it allows us to be flexible with the amount of food and water that we take when we go to a rural stretch, let's say not have shops for 5 days in a row. If you're doing a proper bikepacking setup where you are not carrying panniers or racks, you may have some fork packs or stuff like that, then things are going to be tight and you're going to have to plan your food quite well. Maybe you bring some things from home like powders and protein stuff and whatever to get enough nutrients in the mountains, and those packs are small, and you know, you could really Tetris your way into your setup and try and survive like that, which Silk Road mountain race riders have done. You see them with very light setups and they are able to survive because they ride long stretches, and that's how they find shops frequently. If you're like us and you take it slow, a mix, sort of a blend between a touring setup with panniers and a bikepacking setup is probably gonna be best, because when you're out on these gravel paths and single tracks, things are gonna rattle around, they're gonna, you know, vibrate a lot, move a lot, And if you have panniers, you're going to feel that more than when you have a bikepacking setup. So that fusion is probably what we would recommend.
Yeah, in terms of bikes, when we came here first time, we were riding on gravel bikes with drop bars, and I think our tires were 36 millimeters.
Yeah, 40 probably,
40, yeah.
Something like that.
We were just fine, but now that we're back here with our two-terrain bikes, these bikes are rigid mountain bikes. We have 57 millimeter tires, right?
Yes,
We
57 millimeter width, Smart Sam tires from Schwalbe. Can absolutely recommend those.
Wide handlebars.
Wide handlebars.
So now that we're here again and we can compare, we understand how much comfortable life is when you bring a rigid mountain bike, or you could also bring a hardtail mountain bike. It's probably the most ideal for this terrain.
Yeah.
Mostly just because of the washboard. Like sometimes you're just stuck to washboard and you're just bouncing a lot, so it's gonna help you if you have this kind of bike, but
Yeah,
your
that kind of
wrists are
vibration,
gonna be
definitely.
happy about it.
Yeah. And we can, of course, we're a little bit biased, but we can absolutely recommend a belt drive with a gearbox, whether that is a rear hub gearbox or something like a pinion that we have that sit in the center of the bike underneath the frame. That has been great because in between the transport, the dusty and challenging weather conditions, having a chain and a derailleur is almost always going to fail you at some point. And we've seen that with almost every rider we've met here, that they've had problems with that derailleur.
Yeah.
So having a belt drive and a gearbox is going to help you avert those risks and just allow you to enjoy the journey a bit more, because you don't have to think about greasing the chain or oiling it or cleaning it or fixing your derailleur or whatever, having spare parts and such things. We've had a great experience here with these bikes. We can recommend them if you have the budget. These are the two-terrain Outback models. And if you don't, and you just want to, bring your own bike, maybe a second-hand, maybe a budget bike.
Maybe you're cycling from Europe.
Maybe
this is on your way.
Yeah, something like that. Then that's going to be fine too. You're just going to have to take some spare parts. Realize that there's not always a bike shop very near. Things like that.
And stick to the better gravel paths.
Yeah, exactly. If you bring wide tires, something more fat, and suspension, those kind of things, you can go a bit more rural with confidence.
Yeah.
I think we summed it up. We might have gone too much into detail. This video is probably really long. I hope it helped you in some way. If you made it to the end of this video, then we salute you. You're now probably pretty prepared for cycling in Kyrgyzstan. If you want to see the route videos that we did, you can find them on this YouTube channel. If you want to see more cycling related content, you can of course subscribe to these videos. And as a little newsflash, we are now almost ready to fly from Kyrgyzstan back to Germany, where we're going to do something quite exciting. It's a little factory tour. We're going to meet the companies that make the products that we use and ride on our bike tours. So we're very excited to bring you that. Going to make some gear upgrades. Going to have little microphones for better audio for once. And well, I'm very excited to bring you that on this YouTube channel. So get subscribed, give this video a little thumbs up, and we see you soon in the next video. For now, we wish you a lot of fun cycling in Kyrgyzstan. Ciao, ciao. Woo! Wow, that was quite a sit. But I think we made it.
They made it.
That was nice.
So smooth.
Yes.